A Tea Party plan that would solve the nation's debt crisis takes center stage on Capitol Hill. The proposal, known as Cut, Cap, and Balance, is set for a vote in the House tomorrow. It would allow the government to raise the debt ceiling, but first Congress would have to cut spending and pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. Congressman Michael Burgess is a Republican from Texas, a member of the Tea Party caucus. Because of that, one presumes that you would vote in favor of this Cut, Cap, and Balance plan. Would you?
Oh, not certain at this point. Honestly, it's a lot of information to go through over a relatively short period of time. The principles make no mistake. I accept the principles that are put forward, and I agree with those. I'm not sure I like going the whole distance of the president's request on the increase in the debt ceiling. I am certainly concerned because the level of cuts that you ask for in something like this, you really can only be sure of what you get in that first year. And then, as we've seen in other efforts earlier this year, sometimes the arithmetic doesn't work out in your favor, even on those cuts that you think you have nailed down. So I've still got some questions, but I do think the principles are correct. I like some of the things that I heard Senator Coburn say on your lead into this story. So there's a lot of things that I'm going to be evaluating over basically the next 24 hours. Not much time to do it, but we've got a lot to look at.
Perhaps no surprise that the administration is on record as strongly opposing Cut, Cap, and Balance. We just got word from the White House that if the president were presented this bill for his signature, he says he would veto it. If so, is this all about political posturing? Is this an opportunity for conservatives to try to make the point that they tried to do something about the budget and the president wouldn't let them?
Well, first off, I frankly do not understand why, when something is proposed by House Republicans, it becomes posturing, and when something, however vague and undocumented it is, comes from the White House, that's supposed to be statesmanship. I don't understand how that equation works here in Washington, D.C. But let me tell you what one of the fundamental problems with all of this is. We've got this big law that the president signed 15 months ago called the Affordable Care Act. If we don't do something to get our arms around the amount of spending that's in that thing, all of this is for naught. So one of my concerns about Cut, Cap, and Balance is it doesn't address the Affordable Care Act. The president has refused to address the Affordable Care Act, but at the same time, the American people understand that if this thing kicks in, it's Katie bar the door as far as the drain on the federal treasury. We have to be able to do something that is going to pull this back in. And I'll share something with you. I think we're fortunate to have a debt ceiling. I think a statutory debt limit in the United States is maybe one of those things that sets us apart from those other countries that are in such desperate trouble. It forces us to sit down and do this hard work. And do you think for a minute we'd be doing this type of hard work if it wasn't required? I don't think so. So I'm grateful for Senator Coburn and what he's doing. I'm grateful for Jason Chavez and the work that he and Jim Jordan have done on the House side with Cut, Cap, and Balance. I want the White House to be engaged. I wish someone would wake the Senate up and let them know that they are going to have to do something as well. But the deadlines are real. They're real for a reason. And that's why the parties need to get together and decide what they can do. This bill, if it's passed by the House this week, will give the president what he wants, which is a $2.4 trillion increase in the debt limit, and no one lays a hand on the Affordable Care Act. That's what the president has laid out that he needs more than anything. Okay, Mr. President, we're giving you that. We're just attaching some conditions. And
worth pointing out that you're a physician before you came to Congress and have made quite a study, or made studying the Affordable Care Act sort of a mission of yours.
It's my new career.
We've been asking, though, does anybody come out as winners in this debate? It seems like, there's this stalemate in Washington, and voters aren't too happy with either party or either branch of government, the White House or the legislative branch.
You are correct in that no one looks good in this exchange, but let me just state for the record again, I think we are fortunate to have a statutory debt limit that forces the executive and the legislative branch to sit down with each other, both sides of the legislative branch and the executive branch, to sit down and come to a conclusion on what you're going to do. Historically, the debt limit has just simply been elevated and then go on in business as usual.
Rubber stamp almost.
I think at this point, we heard on November 2nd of 2010, the American people were looking for something different and something bold when it comes to these types of questions. Look, in 2006, Republicans lost the majority, and I don't recall anyone coming up to me and saying, you know, we really wanted you to spend more money that year. That was the #1 knock on the Republican majority in 2006 was we were spending too much money. Well, our deficit is 10 times what it was in 2006. You got to believe that the folks back home understand that we are spending too much money. I'll just tell you, in my district, the calls and emails that are coming in, 9-1 against raising the debt limit in any fashion, even with cap, cut, and balance.
I've mangled it myself. I know it's a tough phrase to get out there sometimes. Yeah, with people all around the country, families are trying to balance their budgets and they're cutting back. It would seem like the government could do the same thing. Congressman Michael Burgess.
And the first thing they do is cut up the credit card. The first thing they do when they have to deal with their family's finances, and maybe that's where we should go as well.
Congressman Burgess is a Republican from Texas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you know, we talk a lot about drinking and driving.